Hello friends, I'm Rosa, welcome. So, I know this video is super late this month, so the thing is, as you might be able to tell, I have moved. I've also mentioned it in the last couple of videos. So I've not been able to actually sit down and do this wrap up for May, and so we're doing it now, even though we're like halfway through June. My background is new. I did get an extra couple of bookcases when I moved, although these four were also in my old office. No, not this one, but these three have come with me from my old office. I will show you guys an arranging my new bookcases video very soon, but as this one is a bit time sensitive, I figured we'd have to go through this one first. Vlogs and such can wait a little bit. So today we're talking about all the 20 books that I read in May. I know, okay, calm down. So it sounds like a lot, but like 4 of them were short books that were less than 200 pages. One is another short book, a novella, that was also an audiobook, and then I read 5 mangas. So we're probably at like 9 full books, and then one that I've also DNF'd, so like it sounds like a lot. It's not. It's a lot less than it actually sounds like. Oh, there's also a graphic novel in there, so like a lot less than it actually sounds like. But we're still gonna talk about everything, we're gonna have some fun with it, and hopefully not get overwhelmed. Also, this is the first time that I'm actually probably recording a full video in my office. I hope my upstairs neighbor has left, and I hope nobody can spot me through my window, which is right there. I'm depending on natural lighting at the moment because my studio lights are not working without Wi-Fi, and I don't get internet until tomorrow. So that's a thing as well. Just wanted to note. I might get all awkward and stuff at some point. It's because I can see people through my window. I got them like slightly covered up, but it's like thin. It's the thin curtain because otherwise no light comes in, so you know. Anyways, let's get started with the first book. So we're talking about Saga Volume 2. Saga is basically, I think it's actually a Romeo and Juliet retelling because we're following 2 aliens from 2 different planets. They're sort of opposing factions in this war that is going on in space, and the 2 of them have come together in one way or another, and they're also having a child, and they're on the run because everyone's chasing them, and it's so much fun. So it is a graphic novel, it's sci-fi with romance, and I'll try to see if I can find a picture that doesn't really, well, this doesn't really give you much. Here you go. The style is like super cute as well, so, or I don't know if I would call it super cute. There are some moments in this that are definitely not super cute. Very gory, a little bit of nudity here and there. Don't overthink it, it's all fine. So, actually quite adult, if I may say so. But this continues to be very fun in Volume 2. I read this so quickly, I feel like I need to reread it again. Oh, also slightly sad. You get to learn a little bit more about Marco, and what's her name? Alana, I think? Yeah, okay. You get to know a little bit more about their meet cute and also like their background, and you also get to meet some other important characters as well. It's just a fun time. It's like very action-packed, very fast-paced, and just fun. I'm kind of hesitant to go into Volume 3 only because I don't own Volume 4 at the moment. Well, that's like the only reason. I feel like I could binge this series very, very easily, so. But yeah, Saga Volume 2. Then I also finished A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which is a YA fantasy, and this, I feel like I should have loved it more than I actually ended up doing, I wanted to like it more than I did. But anyway, in this one we follow Elizabeth. Names are so difficult when you read so many books. What's your name? Elizabeth, who is an orphan who's ended up at this library where they keep grimoires. So grimoires in this world are very dangerous and they need to be kept locked up. So they store them or keep them at the libraries around this world, and they have like people there that are trained in keeping grimoires at bay and stuff. But one evening something happens and this very, very dangerous grimoire is on the loose. And so Elizabeth basically throws everything she has and decides to tackle this issue on her own. And then as the result of that, she's sent off to the city to basically pay for the crime of doing that or something. I don't really remember exactly what happens, but on the one person she has to, or the person that is escorting her to the city, is basically, I don't want to call him her nemesis or rival because that's not really one of her enemies. She's also been taught to hate wizards, and Nathaniel is a wizard, and he also has a very questionable servant, and things are a little bit messed up from there. There's a sense of mystery to this as well, like a mystery plot as well, because you don't really, there's a lot of stuff going on but you don't really know who's causing it and why it's happening. And they're trying to solve this sort of issue that there's going on as well. So, but yeah, I liked Elizabeth as a character. I liked her backstory as well. I liked the whole grimoires with in the libraries and stuff. I thought that was a little bit unique because, I don't know, grimoires don't usually have this kind of power to them. But I think this was a little bit long drawn. I think I wanted more action from this. It's a standalone, but it's like 500 pages. Fair enough for a standalone, but I think parts of it were just kind of like way longer than they had to be. I also think that a lot of, how do you phrase this? A lot of the love that this books get is basically about the relationship that Elizabeth and Nathaniel have. And fair, if it's a full-on romance, but I don't think it was meant to be the main plot of this book. I also don't think, like, I really like Nathaniel as a character. Also his humor, he's very sarcastic, so plus points for that, but that doesn't really make the whole book, if you get what I mean. So I liked parts of it, but I felt like it was just a little bit too slow for my liking. I would have wanted it to be a little bit faster paced, if I may be honest, which I hope I can be because this is my monthly wrap up. So if you don't want honest opinions, I'm sorry to say, but there were parts of it where I was just like flying through it because it was good. And then there were other parts where it's just like, can we move on, please? So it was a bit like, I don't know, not perfect, not bad either, just kind of like, it wasn't meh either, I don't want to say. Like, it wasn't really it's not falling, like if we have bad and then good and then we have just kind of average in the middle, it's still like towards good, but I feel like maybe if I'd read this at a different time, I would have liked it more. I don't know how else to say it. But there were just parts of it where I just wanted something else from what I was reading than what I got from this. So I think that's the best way I can describe that. Sounds like my upstairs neighbor has finally stopped stomping around. So maybe we can go through this a little bit. You've not noticed a thing because I've been editing it out, but girl has heavy feet or something, I don't know. Then we have a romance. So this is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which is actually, it's a series, and I did not know this going into it. I thought they were companion novels. So like I thought we were gonna follow the first couple in this one and then we were gonna move on to another couple in the sequel, but no, it's actually a series just following these two characters. Fair enough. But, I mean, they also have there's a lot of stuff to cover when it comes to these two characters. Like, they definitely have to go through some character development throughout a otherwise very short book. So, like, I get it, but kind of surprised me still. But in this one, we follow, it's adult, new adult, whatever you want to call it, contemporary romance. So, we follow two characters, a girl and a guy, who are very, very good friends, and they have been kind of covering each other because they both deal with their own kind of addiction. So our girl is addicted to sex, our guy is addicted to alcohol. And so to kind of keep up the facade of going to school and doing good in school and stuff, and they don't want anyone else to know, like they know about each other's addictions, but they don't want anyone else to know. So to kind of try to hide it from people, keep up this facade of them doing good and stuff. Also, to save face from their families, they are fake dating, living together, but just kind of dealing with their vices at home, if you get what I mean. Like, they're just kind of not really working on bettering themselves, but just kind of like, this is how it is. How can we cover it up by helping each other out? So, and then as the story goes a little bit, things start to progress a little bit. It's getting hard for them to basically keep fake dating and real life like apart. So like their families start to get a little bit too close to their situation, and so they start to wonder if maybe we can just like actually date, and then it turns into a very other, like a kind of like a toxic relationship. I don't want to say kind of, because I would say it's toxic, but like it's also a bit difficult because I don't want to be disrespectful of addictions. So, but yeah, I would say it's not a healthy relationship, at least. I went into this very interested to see how they were going to tackle it, because I know that addiction is a sensitive subject and you just don't cover, like, you don't include something like that without tiptoeing around it a little bit. Like, you have to be a bit careful, if you will. So I was very curious to see how they were going to do that, the Ritchie sisters, going into this book. I think they handled it well. There were a lot of good thoughts from our lead girl about her addiction and how, like, her addiction is very much tied to herself and her body. Like, she can't just leave the bottle at home. Like, her body is what gives her high. So there were a lot of, like, thoughts from her side that I found very interesting and that I hadn't necessarily thought of myself. Also, a lot of people, I feel, don't really take sex addiction seriously, because everyone has it, you know, like, not addiction, but it's a very natural thing to have. So, like, you get what I mean? Like, I don't know how to fully phrase it, but hopefully you understand what I mean. It's a very natural thing, part of life, if you will. And so I feel like that definitely causes people to not really take it super seriously when you're addicted to it. So thoughts like that were very nice to actually see. Other than that, got a little bit frustrated with their relationship at times, because, like, I really just want to see them do better. I want to see, or not do better, get better. I want to see them get better, and it took such a long time for them to actually, like, decide on, okay, we're gonna get better. So I want to see where this, I actually ordered the sequel because I want to see where this goes. I like the characters, so I hope the best. I really hope for the best for both of them. It wasn't perfect by any means. It was a little bit slow at times and a little bit repetitive at times. I feel like a chunk of this could have definitely been cut out without it causing major issues for the plot, but still quite liked it, I will say. Quite liked it. I want to give it between 3 and 4. So that's where we're at with this one. But very excited to read Ricochet, which is on its way to me soon, I think. Possibly arriving next week, so we'll see. And then I read Roomies by Christina Lauren, which I actually believe is one of the books. Some of these I've picked off of, you can't see it, but I have like a full bookcase filled with books that are just wrapped up in brown paper. So I haven't done a TBR since April, or was it April? No, it must have been April. Where I did the video in April for my May TBR, where I pick like 10 numbers from canisters and then I take those books off of my shelves and then I open them and I have to read those books, but I'm so behind on reading those books because I continuously forget that I also have KU, I have ARCs, and I'm a little bit of a mood reader. So I end up not only reading those books, and so I have some catching up to do. Part of the reason why there's been no June TBR, I'm not sure there'll be a July TBR, I just have catching up to do. But this was one of the books that I took off of the shelves. I think Addicted to You was as well, but don't quote me on it. So this is another adult contemporary romance. It's about a girl who is more or less obsessed with this musician, busker. I think they call them buskers. I don't actually know if that is even a term it takes place in New York, so I don't even know if that's a term they use in America. But he plays music in the subway, and she has basically planned her whole, like, schedule around bumping into this guy and seeing him play because she's obsessed with how good he is at playing music. And then one day she decides to go up and talk to him and this starts basically, one thing leads to another, something happens, and she finds out that he is from Ireland. And this is unfortunate because when her uncle is looking for a new musician for his Broadway show, she instantly recommends that, or she decides to suggest that the uncle should go with her to this subway to listen to this guy play guitar so he can hear how amazing he is, and then possibly have him in for like a test run or whatever so he could maybe join the Broadway show as a musician. And when one thing leads to another, the test goes well. It turns out that our dear busker guy, our dear musician guitarist, actually doesn't have a visa and is not allowed to be in the US. So what she does is like slightly suggest that maybe we could get married so you could get a visa and you could come live with me. And I realize as I'm saying this now, that sounds absolutely ludicrous and also slightly obsessive on her part. which I'll admit it definitely is, but also it's a little bit more chill in the book. You follow her, so like you hear her thoughts throughout it all, and she's not like obsessed with this guy. Like she's not on a stalker level. It's just kind of like she's very impressed with his musical talent. And so just wants the best for him because he's so talented, but also wants the best for her uncle's Broadway show. And so it's a little bit, don't think obsessed woman, just think odd woman. Okay, just want to say. But yeah, I thought this was funny. There were parts of it where she's like, okay, move on please. But I thought it was funny. I thought it was charming. I love that I have, oh gosh, I have bought so many taps. I can't wait to show you in another video, but expect a lot of taps that are matching the front covers of books from now on because I have a lot. But yeah, parts of this I felt like, especially because our lead girl keeps questioning herself over and over and over, and she never really gets over it. It's a bit much. I get insecurity. Like I fully understand insecurity, trust me. I do. But I think for me, I don't necessarily want a lot of it to this degree in my lead characters, because it's kind of like, she also has there's this trope where you have this lead girl who sees themselves as being super average, and they have this like tall, gorgeous friend who's just like, well, she can get anyone. That kind of I hate it. I hate it because you're not really, if you think like that about your friend, you're not really proper friends. Nobody thinks about their friend like that. Like, I don't like it. And that was included in this. I will say, her friend, questionable human being, didn't really like her from page 1, just want to say. But I think that's also, like, she's described as well. You gotta keep in mind she's described through our lead girl's eyes as well. But, so there was that trope. And I'm just not really, I'm not there for it. I keep seeing it over and over, especially in adult contemporary romances. I know that not everyone out there is super secure in themselves. Like, trust me, I get it. I fully do. But I just don't need to see friends comparing themselves to other friends like this. It bothers me so much. Especially the whole, like, she can get anyone. Nobody can get anyone. The world doesn't work that way. Anyway, sorry. I'm a bit frustrated. But other than that, parts of this I was a little bit like, okay, move on. And parts of it I really thought were charming and lovely and funny and cute. Just want our lead girl to just be a little bit more secure in herself, I think. I don't know. It might just be like a me thing or something. It might. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But ended up giving it around 3 and 4, again, like somewhere in between those numbers. Because I did enjoy it. I thought it was charming, and I liked our romance lead as well. I thought he was cute. So, and I just want to like quickly explain, like, when it comes to the insecurity thing, it's not that I don't want to read from insecure women's points of views at all, but I just want to see like a progression. So like she gets more secure in herself. I want to see that throughout the story instead of something very good happening and then she's just like brushing it off because like, well, he was probably just interested in this. Like, I just want to see our lead girls thriving and getting better and just feeling good about themselves. Like, that's what I want to see. So it threw me off a little bit, we'll say, but anyway, on to the next one because we have a lot of books to cover. So many books to cover, so little time. Oh, I closed the door and now it's opening on its own. I closed the door because the fridge is making noise. It's literally just opened itself. Is this apartment haunted? Give me a moment. I've returned. Okay. Let's talk about the book club's primary pick for May, and that was Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. And this is a fantasy romance with fae, but we follow a girl who is actually a nightmare. I don't mean that as an insult. Like, she's literally a nightmare. She's one of the last remaining nightmares on the earth. So this means that she's supposed to look very seductive, and she's supposed to be able to basically like cause you to hallucinate your worst nightmares. Like, she can find your weakness and make you see them. It's very cool. I like the concept of that. Thought it was very interesting. But she is looking for her brother who has gone missing, and while doing this, she is also kidnapped and then set loose with the help of a very powerful fae that she meets, who then decides to ask her if she wants to get married and brings her to Fairy, because he's like, I know where your brother is. I'll take you with me. We can find him together. So she comes along to Fairy and things start to go very weird from there. Super weird. She also has this like, when she dreams, she sees another guy. I don't know how to explain this, but she's basically conjured an imaginary person in her mind that she sees when she sleeps. It's a thing. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a thing. Okay, go with it. And so other than that, I don't think I want to say more, but I feel like there was one thing missing from the synopsis when I read it, and that was, this is actually a book about trials. So I don't know what book I can explain or like kind of compare it to, but I will say, I feel like aside from the nightmare thing, everything that I read in this book, I have read in other Fae books. Like, nothing in this seemed super original per se. I liked it still, but I was also very confused at times, and as for the plot and what happened, have kind of seen it. That said, did enjoy it still, just kind of confused at times, and also actually pre-ordered the traditionally published edition of the sequel, which is coming out here in June or July, so that'll be on its way to me. So it's not like I didn't enjoy it. It's just, I'm slightly confused by certain points. It feels like the author was kind of assuming that we as readers already knew a lot of things about the world, and I feel like descriptions were kind of skipped at certain points in the book. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just missed reading them or something, but I don't think I did, because I don't skip parts. I don't skim. Well, except from one book. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So like, I don't know. Maybe I just personally didn't get it. Maybe it's one of those cases, like, I don't know. Love the nightmare part of this book though. I thought that was super interesting, but I'm still a little bit confused about how the Fae, like what exactly they are in this world, because they're called Nephilim. They're technically, I think some of them are fallen angels or something. I'm not gonna go too into detail, because I also don't want, like, if you want to read this, I don't want to sit here and explain it to you. But there's just some certain things about this where I'm like, what do you mean? How does that, what? And I think usually I'm pretty good with world buildings. Like, I should understand it, but I just kind of don't. Also very confused about the imaginary friend. That was never explained in the book. I hope it gets explained in the sequel, because otherwise I'll leave that one very frustrated, but we'll see, because I am continuing this series at some point. And I think if you're looking for Fae books, this is actually still one that maybe you want to give a shot. I will say, if you have read Echo Tar, you've kind of already read everything that's in this except from the nightmare part, but you know, that's just the point I wanted to make as well. Still enjoyable though. And now we're talking about the skimmed book. Actually not skimmed. I still read, well, okay. So 7 Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb. This was a DNF, and it's like the third DNF I've had in 2 years. I generally do not DNF books. I sometimes stop reading them and say, okay, I'm gonna reread this at some point from the start. I've done that with Babel, for example, because I felt like it just wasn't the right time for me to read it, so I'm gonna give that one a shot later on. But this one, I don't want to finish. So that's what DNF is to me. It's a do not want to finish. Like, I don't want to give this a shot at another time. Because I started this back in like March or April or something. Didn't really like the first chapters, and then I started reading Circe, and instantly Circe just kind of got me hooked. Whereas this one, writing-wise, just felt like it was completely disconnected. Like, I felt nothing while reading it. Like, I don't know. Whereas Circe was beautiful and flowy and made me feel things, this just made me feel nothing. So it's funny how books can do that, right? Like, depending on how they're written, one can totally grip you from the start, and the other one can just like frustrate you a little bit because you're just bored, you feel nothing. So this one though, we follow our lead girl and guy who they've been dating in the past. So this is like they dated, broke up a couple of years further ahead in the future. They are in new positions. So he's working for what we would call the police, and she is what do they call them? She's a disciple of one of the saints. So there are 6 saints actually, I think. I know it says 7. I'm guessing I didn't get to that point in the book, but there are 6 saints. Disciples are chosen by the saint, so they will at some point like have magical powers that break through, and that's how they know they are a disciple. And then depending on what kind of magical powers they are, they belong to one of the 6 saints. So she is now a disciple of the Saint of Patience, I think, and he's a captain working for what we would call the police. So a chain of murders start going on in the city, and the 2 of them separately decide to, well, obviously he works for the police, so like he has his reasons, she has hers as well, but they both decide separately to look into these murders and then find out that they're both actually looking into these murders. So very reluctantly, they decide that maybe it's best if we start working together to solve what the heck is going on here. And that's all I can give you, really. I feel like on paper this had so much potential for me. We have a stabby lead girl and a guy who's just kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave you to it, but also very protective at the same time. I'm not much for second chance romance, but it does have like an air of enemies to lovers to it. So like on paper, also because this is supposed to be dark fantasy, YA, but still dark fantasy, I feel like on paper it had so much potential for me, but then the writing just, I felt nothing. It gave nothing. Like it's difficult to, I also don't want to be disrespectful because this is a debut and MK Lobb's writing can definitely improve in future books, so like, you know what I mean, but it just didn't give much. It's weird reading a book and you're just not, it feels like there's no emotion behind the words somehow. Maybe at times, but like the general vibe that you're getting from the words is just like nothing, no emotions or anything. So that was basically what caused me to, I had a major break in reading this throughout like, I want to say mid-April to start May or something, and then I decided to pick it up again because I did get this as an arc and I don't want to be disrespectful to the publishers that give me arcs. I want to give the books a proper go, but unfortunately picking it up again, I just felt frustrated while reading it. It made me not want to read, and that's not the point. That's not how books are going. Like, they're not supposed to make you feel like that. So I decided to just, it would be best if I just put it down and DNF'd it, so that's what I ended up doing. This is also the Fairy Loot edition, by the way. So I think this is straight to paperback in the UK. I'm not sure about the US, but that's the thing over here in Europe, because in Denmark we get our books from the UK. That's why I say that's a thing over here. And it's a shame because I like the, I mean, I love the end papers, for example. I like this edition. I like the edges. I just did not like the content, and it sucks so much. It's unfortunate. Stabby lead girls are basically like my bread and butter, you know? And then I just didn't vibe with it. It's sad, but anyway. I think if I ended up finishing this, which is, you should definitely be careful saying that because things can happen in this book that could either turn it for the worse or the better, but if it just continued like this, I would have ended up giving it a 2. I just did not vibe with it. We have 2 more books before we move on to the ones that I read on Kindle. Speaking of stabby lead girls, we have Our Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, because I also was in the mood to finish some series, and by series I mean one duology. I have commitment issues apparently. I used to be the kind of reader who would start a series, a universe actually, and then finish the entire universe before moving on to the next thing. I've stopped doing that completely now. I pick up a book, the first in a series, and I love it, and then I'm just like, I'll save it for another time when I really need it. That's how I am now. I don't like it. I don't like that I've made that development, but apparently that's where we're at with reading right now. So I decided to finish this duology at least. As for the sequel here, I can't tell you what it's about exactly, but for These Violent Delights, the first book, we follow Roma and Juliet, who are leaders of opposing crime families in Shanghai. And they also have some history because they used to date secretly. Because they're not supposed to. Forbidden romance, most definitely. But secretly, they used to date. They very much loved each other. And then Juliet was shipped off to the US after something happened as well. And the two are just kind of like super enemies now. Yeah. But then this virus goes loose in Shanghai, and the two of them, so the crime families know that if this virus just gets to run loose completely, it could have very bad effects on their businesses. And so they decide, well, we're gonna put our heirs in this like teamwork situation, have them work together to solve what's going on, where's this virus coming from, how can we stop it, and so on. So they have to work together reluctantly to stop this virus. And that's what the first one is about. The sequel is kind of about the same, but kind of. I don't want to say too much. I like this one a lot. I think I want to give it about the same kind of rating that I gave These Violent Delights, like around a 4 or something. I need to be careful. Talking about sequels is always difficult. Maybe that's one of the reasons I just don't really read a lot of them. They're always difficult to talk about because you can risk spoiling and stuff, so like I'm very careful with what I say about them because I don't want to ruin your reading experience one bit. But this was lovely. I liked it just as much as I liked the first one. How can I say this in a subtle way? I'm in disbelief a little bit. If you've read the book, you know what I mean. I'm in disbelief. Yeah, definitely. A bit in disbelief. So that's the thing. Like I don't think I really realized yet what I read. I'm just in disbelief. That's where I'm gonna leave that. But if you haven't read These Violent Delights and you're looking for someone? That's a whole different talk. Let's talk about the books instead. If you're looking for something with like enemies to lovers, Romeo and Juliet retelling as well, maybe in a different setting than you're used to, but also actually a setting that is on this planet, on the Earth, I would definitely say it's a good idea to look into These Violent Delights. The writing for these books, it's funny because these are two 500-page books or around 500 pages, and I personally didn't feel like they were slow at any points, whereas Sorcery of Thorns felt like it was a bit slow at times, and that's a standalone. These were just nice and flowy. The writing was lovely. Very mature, I feel. The characters are also, I think they're 18 or 19 or around that age, but I still think this is considered YA. But like the writing just felt very mature. I'm very excited to see what Chloe Gong is going to do with Immortal Longings because I think she would do good writing adult actually. So very excited for that. But yeah, definitely would definitely consider looking into These Violent Delights because it was lovely. It was a lovely duology, but I'm still in disbelief. Just want to say, like, super much in disbelief. So that is the thing that I will carry with me always. Thank you. And then my last physical book, because we still have a lot to go through. Bunny by Mona Awad. I still haven't figured out how to pronounce the last name. I don't know how to summarize this. She is pink. Jesus. Like, spot the book in this picture. Jeez. It's very fluorescent, isn't it? Like, no studio lighting going on here, and look at it. I feel like it's kind of glow in the dark, you know? I had a good time with this. Just want to say, preface this by saying I had a good time with this. Very confusing, but had a good time with it nonetheless. So this is about a girl who has a hard time fitting in. She goes to this like super elitist kind of school. And there's a lot of preppy people there. She just doesn't feel like she fits in. And then there is this group who call themselves the Bunnies, or they call each other Bunny, and they're super weird. They're all girls who are, I don't know if you would call them popular girls because I don't think at any point other people considered them, like audibly considered them popular. I don't think that was specified, but just imagine like a group of popular girls, let's just call them that anyway, who are absolutely ridiculous, who dress in, I don't want to say ridiculously, because dress the way you want. If you want to dress like a cupcake, go ahead. You know, I will not judge you. And I mean that genuinely. I will not. Dress the way you want to. But these are, basically they all remind me of Karen in Mean Girls, except from one of them who's definitely a Regina. And I think this is also, there's some ties to, like, I think Mona was definitely inspired by Mean Girls while writing this. There's something about the dynamic in that group that's just very Mean Girls. But then think like, what the heck is going on as well? Because like you kind of know what's going on in Mean Girls, but by the way, that's the movie I'm talking about. If any of you don't know, watch the movie. It's hilarious. Just go watch it. But like But anyway, so these girls decide to contact our elite girl one day and it's basically like, do you want to sit with us? And things start to go very, very strange from there, like super weird. So what I essentially think this is about, it's about loneliness. Look, it's kind of like, oh no, it's not. I just have a pink cheek. I thought it was kind of like reflecting on my cheek, but no, my face is just pink in general. That's good to know. I think this is about, it's horror and satire, but I think it's also about mental health in a way. I think it's about desperately wanting to fit in and about loneliness. I think that's what it's about. It made me super tired. Not like as in you're falling asleep while reading, just like my head was full afterwards from trying to understand everything that was going on in this because it's so strange. It's so weird. I like Lena Dunham just calls it delightful. I don't know if that's the word I would use for it. Hilarious, hallucinogenic freakery. Yeah, that fits. Fits very well. Fits very, very well. Super strange. Super weird. Somehow, like, it just... I'm at a loss for words a little bit. I will say, as someone who was definitely not a part of the popular girls group in school, it was kind of funny to read. Like, I don't know. I don't condone ridiculing people, but I think these girls could kind of, not their style, dressing style, because dress the way you want to, but I think these girls could kind of take a bit of ridiculing, you know? I don't, This is actually difficult to talk about because I don't want to spoil anything. Also, all the yellow tabs are basically me trying to figure out what the heck has happened in this book. So I ended up tabbing so much because I was like, this is probably important. Like, this is a lead. It feels a bit like a mystery, but not in a whodunit mystery, but more in like a what's going on mystery. Like, what is happening? Oh gosh. I also covered this in a vlog, which is going up at some point, so I have some more thoughts about the book in that vlog that will be a little bit more like I'm talking about the book as the thoughts are fresh in my mind, so many more thoughts about the book in that video, but like just super weird, super strange, but kind of funny at the same time, and also kind of like, what the frick? Anyway. And so that leaves us with 2 more books, 5 manga, 4 novellas, sort of, or just very short books in a series, and then 1 novella. So let's do my sleep deprivation books. My books that I've read while I've been unable to sleep because I was very stressed out in May and I have insomnia, so when I'm stressed I literally just cannot. Like, I'll lie awake for hours in my bed just trying to sleep and I can't, and so I just sometimes choose to give up, sit up, read a little bit, start over with the whole process of going to sleep. And so I needed one night to find something very easy to read, something that doesn't have much with the plot either, not much world building, not too many foreign words to me either, or just like fancy words as well. Something very easy to read. So I picked up Planet Barbarians, the first one. I think that's the title. Honestly, I kind of mixed the titles together in that series a little bit. There's a lot, and I'm pretty sure they all have Ice Planet or Ice in them, so I don't know. Or Barbarian in them. I can't remember, but all the titles are basically the same. And I think they are by Ruby Dixon. But if not, I'm cutting this out of my video and I'll leave their author name up instead. But these are, I read the first and then second, third, and fourth in this one, spread over different nights. Or although I will say I think I read 2 in one night or something. Like, I've been having very bad sleeping issues last month. It's a bit better now, but last month it was terrible. So I think I actually ended up reading 2 in one night before I finally felt like I could just lie down and pass out. But these are basically like sci-fi and romance with aliens, big blue aliens who have tails and horns. And they're all basically similar kind of plot line, but then with different tropes. Like, the first one is obviously where we kind of like build up the world and explain what's going on with this tribe of aliens on this planet and what happened to the girls, how they even got to this planet in the first place. They were basically kidnapped from Earth by other aliens, and the ship crashed, and so they're trying to basically survive because it's very cold on this planet. It's full of ice and snow, and so they send out one of the girls, and she runs into this blue alien, and the two of them just get along really well from the get-go. If you get what, they get along really well from the get-go, if you get what I mean, okay. And then the other ones are about them settling in with the tribe, and also it's filled with other plots, like there's a bit of an enemies to lovers situation, there's a surprise pregnancy, there's forced proximity a lot of the time as well, like just different kind of vibes or chemistries with the characters, but much of the same. And I think after the fourth one I was just like, okay, I'm over it now. No more blue aliens. If I ever have another set of nights where I just can't sleep, I'll probably pick up the fifth one. They are on KU, so like if you have a KU membership, they're available to read. Super easy reading as well. Not amazing literature in any way, but just kind of fun. I don't know, but just when you read a couple of them, you're also kind of fed up with it because it's a lot of the same. Like, I don't need to know more about blue aliens' anatomy. Like, I think I know about it. You know, like, I've had it described to me a couple of times by now. So, but they were fun. Very good. Can recommend if you are dealing with insomnia and you just need something easy to read, something that doesn't require much thinking, unlike Bunny, for example. I thought they were pretty good for that. Just kind of words on a page. You don't have to think about too much, and that's just kind of easy entertainment, if you will. So they did their purpose, and I'm thankful for that. I fell asleep afterwards, but got a little bit fed up with the blue alien stuff as well. You know, after the fourth one, just kind of like, okay, I'm over it now. Fun though, super fun. Then while packing, I also tried to pick up audiobooks, so I am on Libby now. I am notoriously bad at audiobooks. I don't know what it is, I just suck at listening. Like, I will zone out over and over and over. I don't know what it is. I just can't. I'm very bad at it. I need to do something at the same time before I can actually like focus on it. So if I do something that doesn't require too, like, I can't just listen, but I also can't do something that requires too much concentrating because then I'll zone out. So like if I'm writing something at the same time, I will zone out. So while I've been arranging my bookcases, for example, or just packing down stuff that was already pre-planned, like what goes in what box, so I didn't have to think about it too much, I've been trying to listen to audiobooks now. So I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shania McGuire, which is a novella. It's the first one in the, is it called Wayward Children, I think, which is about a girl who comes back from having been to the underworld, and she ends up at the school for kids that have been in the same situation as her, although not necessarily the underworld, but they've found portals at some point in their lives and have been to these other places and basically lived long lives, some of them, in these other places. So her place has been the underworld, but there's also someone else who has been to, oh, what would they call that? There's a pair of twins, for example, who have been to a world with vampires, and a girl who has been to a world where she became super tiny and there were a lot of spiders and critters and stuff like that. So like they've all been to their different worlds, and they're back at the school for children who have been through the same thing as them, who just want to go back to this world that they went to. So it's kind of sad in that way because they don't feel like they belong on Earth anymore because they've lived long lives elsewhere where they just felt at home. And there's also a separate school actually for kids that just want to forget that they've been to this other world. So there's both, but we're following specifically in this one because I'm guessing one of the other ones is probably going to be from the other school, but in the first one we follow the girl who has been in the underworld, and then things start to happen at the school and someone gets killed and they have to figure out who's doing the killing. All these kids. I thought it was fun. I like the concept of it, so I'll probably see if I can continue the other ones at some point. It was very easy to understand. I will say one of the characters, the narration as well, so I have a thing with voices, which is probably one of the things as well that causes me to not be super good at listening to audiobooks, but and I think this is pretty common too, actually. If I don't like a voice, I just can't listen to it. Or if I can like a narrator's voice, but if they give a character a certain accent or just a certain way to talk, I can't listen to it anymore. makes me feel awful, actually. I feel very rude, but there was one of the girls in this who just was so annoying in the way that she talked, because she talked like super quickly. I was just like, slow down a little bit. But compared to everyone else, she was talking super quickly. She's also called Sumi, so like that makes sense. Like everything just has to go like quick, quick, quick. But I sped up the audiobook to 1.4 because I felt like it was going a little bit too slowly at 1. So when she was talking, it was just like very, very fast. So I was struggling a little bit with that, but got kind of used to it a little bit, but not fully. But I'm trying to do better with I'm trying to get a little bit better at audiobooks. So I have a couple more to talk about in my June wrap up, actually, because I've been listening to audiobooks throughout this month as well. It's nice for like waking up, or if you're bored in the shower, for example, or you're just cooking breakfast, you know, it's nice to have a book running in the background as well. So been trying to get a little bit better at it. I feel like this was a good way to get eased into it with a novella, and I thought it was charming. I want to know what happens with the other kids. I want to know what's going on at the other school. I want to see what happens in the future with our girl from the underworld as well. I can't actually remember how it ended, so that's a thing. I completely forgot how it ended. Well, I'll be surprised when I continue with the sequel. But I thought it was cool. I thought it was great. Not like amazing, I want to say again between a 3 and a 4, but it was still enjoyable. And then we have technically 7 left, but 5 of them are manga. So the next one I want to talk about is actually a book that I read, Until I Get You, by Claire Contreras, I think her name is. And this is a sports romance. I think it's new adult, slightly dark as well. We are following a girl who has been through some stuff in her life, and she is going to this school where she's just kind of keeping to herself, doesn't really go to parties, doesn't really talk to many people. She's content with just doing her thing. And then she goes to this one party where there's a guy who is like majorly popular. He's super good at, what does he do? Is it ice hockey? I think it might be ice hockey. I feel like it's always ice hockey. I don't know. I didn't even know ice hockey was a big thing in the US. But I think it's ice hockey that he does. So if it's not, it's some other sports. It's fine. But he is also kind of like not really a party goer per se. So he kind of just sticks to himself at parties. If he wants to, you know, have fun with a girl, he'll find a girl. Fine. But at this specific party, he's just not really interested in that, so he decides to go to his wall, as he calls it, where the girl is currently standing, and he's like, what are you doing at my wall? And she's like, I'm just kind of keeping to myself. Who said this was your wall? And this starts a relationship between the two. She's very hesitant, but he's very much like, I like her. She's going to be mine. You know, like that kind of vibe? Like he's not been interested in anyone before, but her, he's suddenly interested in. So there's a bit of a chase at the start. And then, because if you read the synopsis, you'll get confused why, like I read the synopsis before going into it and I was like, this sounds like an enemies to lovers situation, but they're definitely just slowly becoming friends and then becoming more than friends. But then something happens because our girl actually has a stalker, and this means that she's, without saying too much, because I don't want to, she runs off and he gets mad. Both the stalker, but also our guy. He gets mad and makes it his mission to find her, chase her down, a bit like a stalker, actually. Chase her down and get his revenge on her. Meanwhile, there's still a stalker in the background, an actual stalker, because I don't think I would call our lead guy a stalker. It kind of sounds like he's entering stalker territory, but if you read it, you'll see like he's not really. It's not like that. So, that's where that came from. It surprised me because I was reading the first 30% of the book and I was like, they are getting along way too well. This is confusing. But then it took a turn. I was like, oh, okay. Suddenly we have angry vibes and definitely enemies to lovers a little bit. Definitely like, they're not doing great for a while. And there's still this stalker situation going on in the background and you don't know who it is. She knows, but she doesn't actually say the name. So like you keep guessing throughout the book. I thought it was cool. I thought it was very, very cool. Slightly, it turns very steamy at some point. Like, and not like, angry steamy. Let's call it that. Angry steamy. Angry steam? Can we say that? I don't know. Angry chili peppers. Yes. So, I think I kind of got what I wanted from it, actually. I was was a little bit nervous that it wasn't going to go in the direction that I wanted because they were such good friends in the start. I was just like, this is not what I read. What? Who is this? Is the synopsis written from the stalker's point of view? Like, I don't get what's going on here. And then it just took that turn. I was like, yes, now we're getting to the good stuff. It sounds very unhealthy to say it like that. Just want to say that I prefer a much healthy relationship in real life. Just want to say. But in books, I need drama. Like, give me all the drama. I don't care. Just give me drama, you know? That's all I want. I think this is actually also a newer release. I think it was released in like April or something, which surprised me. But it's on KU as well, so if you have that and you're looking for a sports romance that's not necessarily everywhere on social media, I would maybe like consider giving it a go. Just hang in there if you don't like... It's a bit of a longer book as well for a romance, so, but it makes sense because the first bit is literally like very compact and just filled with like rainbows and sunshine. And then it's just like knocks you in the face, you know. Yeah, just give it a go, be a little bit patient with it, and then be just slightly heartbroken. But also check up on trigger warnings because some of it is very heavy. Like, our girl has been through some stuff with a stalker guy. Still going through stuff with a stalker guy, and I would say it's important to, if you have anything that you could react badly to, just look up on it first. Because some of it is, with that one, a little bit detailed. It's explained slightly in detail, so I would say make sure you cover yourself before going into it. Then I read, as part of the same vlog where I read Bunny, I read The Housemaid by, oh gosh, who is it by? Freda McFadden. Okay. So what I did was I figured since I'd already read Bunny, which was outside my comfort zone, I was also listening to The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, which we're going to talk about in the June wrap-up, but that's a mystery, and I figured, well, we're already out of my comfort zone. I'm going to pick up some other book because I had like a whole trip to Copenhagen to cover with something as well. I decided to just go on KU and then go on the most popular mystery books page and decided to basically download and read #1, which I think at the time at least was The Housemaid. So this is about our girl. It's a mystery, an adult mystery, with some romance as well, I want to say. But we follow our lead girl who has been struggling for a while, and she's struggling. She's living in her car, and this is because she's actually gone to jail, so she's having a hard time finding a job because previously convicted people tend to not really have an easy time finding jobs. So when she's offered this very lucrative position as a housemaid at this big mansion by a woman who sure does seem a little bit like, vibes wise, she's nice, but there's just something slightly off. But our girl is having a very hard time saying no, so she decides to say yes to the job. But then things go really bad when she starts the job. Like, her employer is not who she says she was at all. And she's also married, the employer, and the relationship she has to her husband is just so fragile. And our lead girl is also very taken with the husband. Stuff start to happen, and then there's a twist. And I'm not gonna say anything, but I loved it. I thought it was so funny. Also very easy to read. Like, I thought humor-wise, super funny. But also slightly satiric. Yeah, slightly satiric, I want to say. Like, because stuff that happens in this book is so messed up, but it's just funny. Like, I don't know. It's just, how do you, or maybe, I think it's supposed to be satirical, but maybe I'm just desensitized to it. Maybe Bunny has ruined me. I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was super funny. So also very, very easy to read. It's a very short book as well. There's a sequel, which I'm kind of actually interested in looking into, even though I'm not much of a mystery girl, but I liked our lead girl a lot. Like, she definitely knows what she's capable of. Huge respect for her in that way. But, yeah, it was funny. It was funny and kind of like, what the heck is going on here? Because that employer woman just, she goes weird. Like, she's super strange, but also super funny, but also kind of messed up. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I can recommend. And then lastly, I'm sorry, it's because I have a list on my phone. That's why I'm looking down. I have the 5 manga that I read. They are all volumes of Attack on Titan, so this won't be a long rant or anything, but well, actually we can take 6, 7, and 8 as well because I read those in June, and that's fine. We're gonna talk about those as well. I read them so quickly that I've just they've blended together in my mind, so I can't talk about them separately. So, but I will say, as someone, I don't really read a lot of manga. That's funny because I have read like, I don't even know how many volumes of Dragon Ball Z, but like as a kid, I read Dragon Ball Z religiously. I need to find those books. I want to reread them. I can't even remember if they were in Danish or English. Anyway, it's a good time. Attack on Titan is sci-fi, so it's placed in the future, I think. I'm not sure if it's on Earth or if it's on another planet out there, but basically humanity is having a hard time because the planet that we live on has been overrun by Titans, and Titans eat people. They eat humans for fun. They don't need to, but they eat them for fun. So obviously with them being Titan as well, they're very hard for us to kill. They are super strong, tall, big, will crush you very easily, and they basically only have one vulnerable point on their bodies, so very hard to kill. And it's about the remaining part, or is it the remaining part? I don't actually know. But the humans that we follow, they live in this fortress on this planet where they've built walls to keep the Titans out so they can stay safe inside the wall. And then one day, something happens. We follow, more specifically, we follow a guy, a girl, and then another guy. So we have like our lead guy, I will say, and then two other characters. And something happens, the wall is torn down. 5 years ahead in the future, these three people are now a part of this defense squad. So it's about following them, taking down Titans, and then various things happening. And it was fun. Very action-packed. I really want to read the rest, but the first 8 were in KU, so I kind of binged them a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I read like 3 in a day. I don't know. It's fine. They're very short. 192 pages or something a piece, and it's manga, so there's not like a massive amount of text either. Very quick reads, very entertaining though. Now I'm kind of like, how many volumes are there total? Because that's gonna be a lot of books on my shelves, and I'm wondering if maybe I can just watch the show. I've heard that the show is really good. I would usually pick the book over the TV show, but I've heard that the anime is really, really good. So, I don't know, point me in the right direction. Should I read the books or should I watch the show? Because I don't know. Help a girl out because I'm clueless. But I was very, very entertained. I thought they were great. And now I need more manga in my life. So if you have any recommendations, let me know as well. Like, what are your favorites? I would love to know. But that is all I got. So that was also a very lengthy wrap up, but we had a lot of books to go through. Tried to shorten it down a little bit, but I don't know if I managed. I rarely ever do because I tend to rant a lot, but I hope you guys enjoyed it regardless. If you want to check out any of the books, I will be leaving links to them in the description box down below, so you can go check them out through those links. But if you've already read them, let me know your thoughts on them down below in the comments. However, that is all I got for you guys today. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, but also videos like TBR videos, reading vlogs, bookish unboxings, and all the other booktube stuff, definitely consider sticking around by clicking on the subscribe button. My wrist just cracked. Sorry if you heard that. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, and I hope the audio is good in here. I don't know yet. I guess we'll see when I edit. Oh, you know.